Hi, I'm here to tell you about another Nutmeg nominee. It's called Bear Goes Sugaring. But first, before I tell you about this story, I'm going to ask, who likes maple syrup? Me too. I like it on my pancakes, on my French toast, even in my oatmeal. I love maple syrup. Where does maple syrup come from anyway? Believe it or not, it comes from trees. Sugar maple trees, to be exact. And what if you could make your very own maple syrup? Wouldn't that be cool? In the story, Bear Goes Sugaring, Bear will tell you all about how she gets maple syrup from inside the tree. Well, actually, there is no maple syrup inside a tree. It's actually called maple sap or sugar sap. And then you get that sugar sap out of the tree, which Bear will tell you how, and you prepare it in such a way that turns it into maple syrup. I'm going to let Bear tell you all about it. But Bear tells you each and every step in a really fun way. And Dog and Squirrel are waiting for that homemade maple syrup. There they are. They're very impatient, falling asleep, waiting for Bear to finish getting all the sugar sap out of the tree and turning it into delicious maple syrup. Bear will tell you first what you need, of course, the right kind of tree, and the perfect weather, which Bear will explain what the perfect weather is. And I'm going to let Bear tell you all about how to tap the tree, gather the sap, and turn it into delicious maple syrup in Bear Goes Sugaring by Maxwell Eaton III.
Hi, Miss Beth here to talk to you about some of the elementary Nutmeg books. This first one I'd like to tell you about is called Crossings, Extraordinary Structures for Extraordinary Animals. It's by Katy S. Duffield. As you can tell, it's non-fiction. So as people move into more rural and wild areas, they must learn to live with the animals that are already living there. When highways were built, the engineers didn't consider that these busy roadways were now cutting off the natural paths that the animals travel. But now, engineers have built special structures to help animals cross safely. There are tunnels, rope bridges, and overpasses. I'll just show you a couple examples here. Here's a tunnel in Africa. Oops, that's my page. Here's a rope bridge. And here is an example of an overpass, a bridge. Okay. More information is given at the back of the book. It gives you more information about the animals and the structures that you've already read about. This is a great book for animal lovers and future engineers alike. Okay. This book is called Digging for Words, José Alberto Gutiérrez and the Library He Built. It's by Burke Kunkel. This is based on a true story. In Bogota, Colombia, in South America, young Jose can't wait for Saturday. He goes to school, he plays sports, he rides his bike until his favorite day arrives. Senor Jose didn't finish school because his family was poor and he had to go to work at a young age. He started as a bricklayer, but eventually became a garbage collector. Along his routes, he would find discarded books that he would take home. On Saturdays, Jose would open his home to the neighborhood children to explore and borrow a book. Their neighborhood had no library, so Jose started his own. The story is in English with some Spanish words sprinkled in that are easy enough to figure out. Hope you like that one.
Hi, it's Rebecca, and I'm here to tell you about an awesome 2023 elementary Nutmeg nominee called The Floating Field. Before I start to tell you about the book, though, I want to show you where the story takes place. on my globe. The story takes place in a country called Thailand, which is really quite far away from the United States. So let me get close here. Here on the globe is the United States. We're over here on the East Coast. And Thailand is over here. It's this green country. And the story takes place in this narrow part down at the bottom. And as I point to this, the United States is like over here on the other side. So it is halfway around the world from us. Well, now you know that where Thailand is, I can tell you a little bit more. Imagine that you live on an island surrounded by water. Instead of streets, you walk along raised wooden walkways because underneath is the sea, and your home is on stilts. Otherwise, it would be in the ocean. Where would you be able to play your favorite game when there are no grassy fields or parks or backyards for playing? Well, in the 1980s, a group of boys from the island of Koh Phangan in Thailand loved playing soccer so much they built their own soccer field and formed the Phangan Football Club. This is a true story about incredible resourcefulness and creativity brought to life by author Scott Riley with awesome illustrations from Nguyen Quang and Kim Lien.
In a Jar by Deborah Marcero. This is a story of Llewellyn, a small little rabbit who loves to collect things and put them in jars. Collects all kinds of special things, like buttercups, feathers, heart-shaped stones. And then one day, Llewellyn meets Evelyn, another small white rabbit who also loves collecting. And together they collect even more amazing things than before. They collect rainbows, the sounds of the ocean, and the wind just before it snows. But unfortunately, just as quickly as Evelyn comes into Llewellyn's life, she ends up having to move very far away with her family. And now, these two friends, they have to figure out how to continue their magical collection, as well as keep their friendship alive from afar. This is a fantastic picture book. I definitely recommend giving it a try.
Hi. How will you make our world better? Well, Fujikawa made it better through her art, and especially through her illustrations for children. And you will learn about her life in the biography, It Began with a Page, How Fujikawa Drew the Way. This is a 2023 Elementary Nutmeg nominee. It's by Kyo Maclear with beautiful illustrations by Julie Morstead. You will find out about Gio's childhood and schooling and how she turned her passion for drawing into a career and used her experiences in life to make children's books that made everyone feel included. I have with me today two of Gio Fujikawa's books. I was lucky to find the book called Babies, which was first published in 1963. This was the first book that she had published. And although it probably doesn't seem too out of the ordinary for us today, pages like this one and this one in particular were pretty extraordinary for their time. And then here's another one of her books published later in her career. This one's called Are You My Friend Today? And I'll just flip through a few pages so you can get a feel for her artwork. So if you'd like to learn more about the cool lady who wrote these books, take a look at It Began with a Page.
Hi, I'm here to tell you about a Nutmeg nominee called JD and the Great Barber Battle. And right there is JD, and he's 8 years old, and he's an artist. He's going into the 3rd grade, and it's the night before school, and his mom is going to give him his first ever haircut. It's a family tradition to wait until they're about to go into 3rd grade before they get their hair cut. So Mom sits him down in a chair, cuts his hair, and it's terrible. And JD is so upset. So he puts on a hat, a baseball cap, and he goes to school. Well, of course, they're not allowed to wear hats in school, so the teachers tell him to take it off, and that's what he does. And of course, his friends and his classmates, they make fun of him. Well, he's not happy about that. And he lives with it for a little while and then decides, you know what, Mom has this really cool hair product and her hair always looks great, so I'm going to try that. So he goes into the bathroom, he gets the hair product, he puts it on, and you guessed it, it looks even worse. So back on the hat goes, and he goes into school and the teachers tell him to take the hat off, and his friends and his classmates make fun of him again. So now, JD decides he's going to cut his own hair. Personally, I do not recommend that anybody cut their own hair. And I do not recommend that you cut somebody else's hair. But that is exactly what JD does. He gets those hair clippers, and before he does his own hair, he tries it out on his brother without asking his mother. Now, his little brother is not living with the tradition of waiting until just before 3rd grade. So is Mom going to get mad about that? You'll have to read to find out. JD does decide to cut his own hair after he does a pretty good job on his brother, and his hair looks fabulous. So he goes into school and all the kids are so jealous that his hair looks so great that they come over to his house and he starts cutting their hair in his bedroom for just $3 a haircut. Well, this sounds great. He starts to make a lot of money. He buys some things that he's always wanted but could never afford, until one day there's a problem. Now, I'm not going to tell you what the problem is, because if I tell you what the problem is, then you're not going to want to read the book. But, of course, for every problem we need a solution, and JD and his friends come up with this great solution that you'll also have to read to find out what it is. I will give you a hint, though. One day, knocking on the door is the health department, and they tell JD he has to shut his barbershop bedroom down. Well, JD's not going to stand for that. So, if you're looking for a good book with a great problem and an even better solution, you got to read this book, JD and the Great Barbershop Battle by J. Dillard. And actually, J. Dillard is the real JD.
Hi everyone! I wanted to talk to you about Arlo and Pips, King of the Birds by Elise. Meet Arlo and Pips. Pips is the little yellow bird and Arlo is the crow. And they meet for the first time in this book. They go on some adventures and they even end up cleaning up a beach together. But one thing to keep in mind is that sometimes Arlo can be very full of himself, meaning he likes to show off, he likes to brag. But Pips does a really good job of kind of keeping him in check and letting him know that he's kind of acting like he thinks too highly of himself. We do learn also quite a lot about crows. Throughout the book, in the bottom of a page, you may see a little star, and that is a crow fact. So I learned a lot while reading this book. I learned that crows are super smart, and they can do a lot of things like count to 6. And they even play dead when they want to hide a food source that they found, meaning they want to kind of turn away, trick away other animals from claiming the food that they found. So I hope you enjoy reading the facts about crows, the friendship between Arlo and Pips, and there are actually 2 more books in this series if you really like this book. So give it a chance and let me know what you think. Hi everyone, I'm Miss Bailey and I'm here to talk to you about the Nutmeg Nominee Lift by Minh. This book is for anyone that has ever had a baby sibling. Iris is the main character, and she has a baby brother that she's pretty grumpy about. Her baby brother just seems to be getting all the attention and getting into everything possible. The one thing that makes Iris happy is pushing the elevator button to go down with her family in their apartment building. It has always been her job to press the button, until one day her baby brother presses the button, and he continues to do that day after day. Iris now does not have the only thing that makes her happy. She's very upset, so she pushes all the buttons in the elevator. And as you can imagine, her parents are pretty unhappy about that. However, when the maintenance man is working on the elevator, she spies the broken elevator button in his work bag. And now she does something she's not supposed to do. She takes it. She tapes the button up on the wall in her room, and she presses it. And one day she discovers that it will take her to a different magical place each time. But she can't spend all her time in magical places, right? Relive to find out what happens to Iris and her magical elevator button. I hope you enjoyed it.
Maybe Tomorrow by Charlotte Agell. Maybe Tomorrow is a quiet story that asks us to listen to each other and explore our feelings. So we have Elba, the purple hippo, who has a big, heavy block that she carries around everywhere she goes. And this isn't really a block that she can just leave behind, but one that's physically tied to her. And then on the other hand, we have Norris, the alligator, who's always happy and surrounded by butterflies. Well, Norris wants to invite Elba on a trip to the ocean, but Elba's feeling pretty stuck because of her block. Can Norris help convince Elba to overcome her sadness and help her lighten her load of her box? This is a story of friendship, grieving, and learning to listen to one another. I want to tell you guys about the treasure troop, Mr. Summerling's Secret Code by Dori, Hillestad, Butler. I'm going to start off by reading you a letter from the desk of Harry P. Summerling. If you're hearing this letter, then I am missing, dead, or perhaps I have been abducted by aliens, and it's time to give away my earthly possessions. To my son Jay, I leave nothing. You have been a terrible disappointment to me, son. You don't call, you don't visit, and you don't take my treasure hunting seriously. So why should you reap the reward? You don't deserve a share of my treasure. Oh yes, son, there is treasure, and I, Harry P. Summerling, being of sound mind and body, will that treasure to Miss Marley Dever, Mr. Sai Gupta, and Miss Isla Thompson. That is, if you can find it. Well, Marley always knew Mr. Summerling as her friendly but kind of goofy neighbor living in the big old house next door. He was always walking around with his metal detector talking about being a treasure hunter. But she didn't really think much of it until the news of Mr. Summerling's death arrives at her doorstep. And in his will, he left a treasure for Marley and two of her classmates, Isla and Sai, to find. The catch being that they have to solve a series of riddles, puzzles, and clues in order to find it. And they have to work together. Well, can they crack the code? And even if they do solve all the clues, what could Mr. Summerling have possibly left them?
Hi, I'm here to tell you about a really cool book, one of our 2023 Elementary Nutmeg nominees, called Our Friend Hedgehog, The Story of Us, written and illustrated by Lauren Castillo. The story of us is just that, the story of how a hedgehog, Muddy, Mole, Owl, Beaver, Hen and Chicks, and Anakame became friends. It's their friendship origin story. It is a colorfully illustrated chapter book adventure. In the beginning, Hedgehog and her stuffed toy Muddy live alone on a small island in the river, and were happy until the night of the terrible storm that swept Muddy away. Hedgehog bravely leaves her island to search for her missing friend and has a series of escapades that leads her to Mole, Owl, Beaver, Hen and Chicks, and Annika May. Each new friend has their own personality and lovable quirks, such as Mole's habit of greeting people by saying hello in a variety of languages. Will Hedgehog and Muddy be reunited? Read the story of us to find out. And be on the lookout for the second book in the Our Friend Hedgehog series, which is coming out in the fall of 2022.
Hi everyone, Miss Bailey here. I want to start off by saying we all know that grown-ups can work, right? They can work from home, they can work outside the home, they can work in a hospital, in a zoo, they can drive a truck or be a teacher, they can work in the daytime or the nighttime. There's so many possibilities, and each family is different. Well, in this book, for the family featured in The Paper Kingdom by Helena, Rhee, Daniel's parents work at night and they're night janitors. But one night, Daniel's babysitter cancels and Daniel has to go into work with his parents. He's not excited about this. He's super tired, and I'm sure when you're super tired, you might be more cranky too rather than happy. So he's just not willing to go. Of course, he has to go, but he just thinks this is not going to be fun and there's nothing to look forward to. And why do his parents have to clean up after everyone? But Daniel is so very wrong. His parents instead share stories of how they work for the paper king and queen in the Paper Kingdom, and that maybe one day Daniel himself may be able to be a king, and then he can teach all the dragons in the land how to clean up their own messes. So this book shows how you can make fun out of an unexpected situation. And I really enjoyed it, and I hope you do too.
Okay, the next book is Salma, the Syrian Chef by Ramadan. Salma and her mother have arrived in Vancouver, Canada from Syria. Salma's father had to remain behind, and she and her mother miss him an awful lot. At the Welcome Center in Vancouver, where they live, there are apartments with other immigrant families. Salma wants to cheer up her mother, who is feeling sad because she misses her home. She decides to make a dish called Ful Shami, a Syrian dish, but must find the ingredients to make it, and she doesn't know the English words for them. She will need help and love of her new friends to show her mother that even though she misses home, she can still find happiness.
Welcome to Sueño Bay on Roberts Island in the Pacific Northwest, where the claim to fame is that they're the home of supernatural creatures. I'm going to tell you about Shadow Island, the first book in the Sueño Bay Adventures, a graphic novel by Mike and Nancy Diaz. I'm going to start by telling you about the characters. First, the main character is Oliver. Since his parents' death, Oliver has been passed from relative to relative and is now living with his grandfather in Sueño Bay. He's not enjoying his stay and is ready to head back to the mainland. Kay is his classmate and longtime Sueño Bay resident. Jenna is another one of Oliver's classmates. She likes to follow the rules. And then there's Sleeves, Jenna's little brother. Ms. Grundle is the grouchy gym teacher, and this cute guy is Conkers. Is it a strange raccoon or a moon creature? So the adventure gets started when Ollie's classmate Kay takes him to a trailer rumored to be haunted. Jenna and her little brother Sleeves tag along too. It turns out that the trailer belongs to their grouchy gym teacher, Ms. Grundle. But what are the strange creatures in her trailer? And what is she doing with them? When one of the creatures stows away in Ollie's backpack, he and Kay try to return it. And you guessed it, the strange creature is Conkers. While they head off to Ms. Grundle's trailer, they need to wait for her to clear out. And while waiting, Conkers goes from sweet and cuddly to mean and vicious, and then, with the help of some crystals back in Grendel's trailer, back to sweet and cuddly. They also learned that Grendel found conquerors on another nearby island called Shadow Island. Ollie and Kay decide to return Conquerors to his home, but Grendel is hot on their trail. Will they make it to Shadow Island? And what about the monsters rumored to be living there? Try this fast-paced graphic novel with relatable and interesting characters and amazing artwork that makes you feel like you are part of the adventure.